Okay, the FA Cup final has finished 6-0 to Manchester City. It's a record equaling cup final. It's also a record breaker for a Wembley Cup final, considering that the two other records for 6 goals for the winning side in the game did not come at Wembley and didn't come in this century. Yeah, very long time ago. But the interesting thing is about all these 6-goal FA Cup winners, they all come from the historic county of Lancashire. And I'll get to that in the notes of the day. Now, let's have a look at actually where all the goals came from. Of course, Watford had that early opportunity with Pereira being saved by Edison. Had that gone in, could the game have been different? There was the penalty shout with Vincent Kompany. There were 2 penalty shouts involving Vincent Kompany for handball. Both were waved off by Kevin Friend, the referee. So we'll have to look at the goals. David Silva scores the first goal in 24 minutes. He was there in 2011 with the first trophy of the Sheikh Mansour era. He's been there for every single piece of silverware. He is a Man City man. He's been there a long time. He's a servant of the club. It's quite fitting that he gets the first goal in 24 minutes. Gabriel Jesus, did he score the second goal, or was that Raheem Sterling? We'll leave that up to debate of fans. It's accredited to Jesus. Was the ball fully over the line? We didn't see a replay of it fully over the line with the goal line tech. So that's an interesting debating point. But Raheem Sterling does what a good supporting player should and charge into the box for any rebound or loose ball. So that's something that young kids should watch, is Raheem Sterling making that run, because that could have been a cross-come shot, but it's been accredited to Gabriel Jesus. And that was 2-0 at half-time. Half-time comes, Watford actually started the second half the better side and had a lot of the ball, a lot of chances. But then the floodgates open with Kevin De Bruyne's goal on the counter-attack. And after that, they fell apart completely. They had to score the next goal. They didn't. Man City did. Kevin De Bruyne's goal, I think, is the best goal out of all of them, personally, because the quick pace nature of it. Gabriel Jesus scores a second, and then Raheem Sterling gets his 2 goals in the last 10 minutes to make it a 6-0 scoreline. And they were still willing to go for 7. Yeah, that shows the intent of this team. The interesting thing is, though, they can't do this in the Champions League in key games, and in the FA Cup in the past, they've also come unstuck. So it's interesting to note this was the best FA Cup performance I've seen from a Man City side. The semi-final against Brighton, they did not look this competent or this confident. They didn't. So obviously winning the title and retaining the title has helped with some confidence. They've also won a domestic treble, which I'll get onto with the history stats behind that. It's unfortunate for Watford that the last 30 minutes happened, really. But when you can bring De Bruyne and Leroy Sané off the bench, yeah, they normally are starters. That's how much depth Man City have over other sides in the league, possibly bar Liverpool at the moment. And when players like Jesus and Sterling can stay on for the 90 minutes and also contribute with 2 goals, it's made more difficult. And the debate about the financial fair play that's been in the news lately, that's going to rage on. At the end of the day, you've got to play what's in front of you. Watford did not have enough today. They didn't play well enough. They allowed Man City to settle in the first half, and in the second half, it was too late to start coming out and playing. They should have started that from the get-go. They allowed Man City to pass the ball around very early on. They didn't rough them up enough. They didn't disrupt their possession enough. And Man City, while they played within themselves in the first half, because they were fearful of the counter-attack, they weren't put under enough pressure when they had possession. And that's Watford's tactics were poor. They got it wrong. But De Bruyne, yeah, he injected a level of pace into the game that Man City were lacking for 20-odd minutes, because in the second half, they were the second best team for the first 15 minutes of the second half. De Bruyne comes on, and the game is flipped on its head very, very quickly. Because if Watford had got that goal, things might have been different. De Bruyne's introduction did change the dynamic of Man City's pace of attack that they didn't have for periods of the first half and periods of the second half. But then after De Bruyne comes on, it just became a shooting gallery. And credit to Aurelio Gomez for making as many saves as he did, and the Watford defence for making as many blocks as they did. But this was the most one-sided cup final I have seen in any cup final, apart from the League Cup final between Swansea and Bradford. This is the most one-sided cup final I've seen in my lifetime. And I have to feel sorry for Watford, because the way they came back in the semi-final, being 2 goals down shouldn't have bothered them, but they just did not turn up today. Did the occasion get to them? Were their tactics off? Was their formation wrong? We'll find out in the fullness of time. But Man City have gone and done something that no English team have done before. So, the notes of the day, and there's some serious stats here. It's the first domestic treble of the 3 major trophies in English football. Man United obviously have the treble with the Champions League, plus 2 domestic trophies with the league, and I think it was League Cup in 99. Oh no, FA Cup in 99. Sorry, they have that treble, but that's not a full domestic treble. Man City are the first English team to get a domestic treble. We know about Celtic going for the treble. So it's been done in Scotland, never been done in England. So that's the first domestic treble. They are the first team in an FA Cup final to score 6 at Wembley. Scoring 6 in an FA Cup final has been done before, as I mentioned, but they're the first team to do it at Wembley. And they're the third team to score 6 in an FA Cup final. The other 2 teams to do so are Blackburn Rovers and Bury, both from Lancashire, historically. Bury is obviously now in Greater Manchester, and so it's obviously Manchester City is Manchester. So that's an interesting stat that all 3 teams that have scored 6 in the cup final historically are from the historical county of Lancashire. That is a very interesting stat. So they're only the third team in history, and they're the first team to do it at Wembley. Watford, this is a game they want to forget. They couldn't get it on the score sheet. And the fact that they fell apart in the last 30 minutes, completely and utterly capitulated, that's on the players. Also, you could mention they made the substitutions too late. They could have injected those substitutions maybe 5-10 minutes earlier when it was still 2-0 to change the game. Deulofeu played very, very well when he did get chances to run at the Man City defence. He did trouble them, but he didn't get enough of the ball to be effective. Troy Deeney looked isolated at times, although he was energetic. He didn't get the support from the rest of his team. And when you have your key players man-marked out the game or not getting involved in the game in the way that suits their strengths, you're going to struggle. So we could look at Watford's tactics being not right or the occasion getting to them, but Man City fully deserved to win by 6. They could have won by 12. This could have been a record scoreline, but they equal the record scoreline, which is actually held by good old Bury, although Blackburn have taken part in the highest scoring FA Cup final in history with a 7-goal final. They beat Sheffield Wednesday 6-1. Bury beating Aston Villa 6-0. Yeah, I'm a history boffin as well. There's the other channel. And yeah, although the BBC mentioned it, they didn't mention the fact that all the 3 teams that have scored 6 in the final all come from the historic county of Lancashire, although Bury and Man City are based in Greater Manchester, which is actually, guess what, part of Lancashire historically. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. This unfortunate for Watford, but for whatever reason, they just weren't competitive enough today. Did they put too much emotional energy into the semi-final? Did they just run out of steam at the end of the season? Who knows? But it's interesting to know that Man City cannot do this in the Champions League in key games. Can they do that next season in the Champions League and get to a Champions League final? Because that's something they haven't done under this era of ownership from the Mansours. They haven't done this and got to a Champions League final. So that's the next thing. That's the last thing they've got to tick off. They've won everything else. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll have some more videos for you very, very soon.